Army veteran drops his medal. A general steps forward, and what follows went completely viral. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel. Your subscription means the world to us and is the only way to ensure that stories like these, stories of brave individuals who often remain unheard, reach a wider audience. Your support helps us continue our mission, so please, subscribe now. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the army base. A crowd gathered, faces filled with anticipation. Among them stood an aging veteran, his hands trembling as he clutched a medal that sparkled like a distant star. Memories of sacrifice flooded his mind, each one a reminder of the battles fought, both on the field and within his own heart. In that moment, he felt the weight of the world, his courage, his losses, all condensed into a single piece of metal. Just as he raised it high, a sudden slip sent the medal clattering to the ground, echoing like a thunderclap in the silence that followed. Gasps filled the air, eyes wide with disbelief, and then a figure stepped forward, a general, cloaked in authority and respect. The tension was palpable, and the unexpected connection that unfolded between them would soon capture hearts around the globe. As the crowd held its breath, the stage was set for a moment that would resonate far beyond that day, a testament to honor, humility, and the bonds of brotherhood forged in the fires of conflict. As the general stood there, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The crowd, once filled with murmurs of disbelief, now held an electrifying mix of admiration and confusion. Victor, still reeling from the embarrassment of dropping his medal, felt the weight of the general's gaze upon him. It was a look that seemed to pierce through his guarded heart, urging him to confront the pain he had buried for so long. "Victor," the general began, his voice steady yet resonant, "this medal represents more than just a recognition of valor. It embodies the spirit of all those who have fought alongside you, who have sacrificed everything. It belongs to you now." Victor's eyes widened, his breath catching in his throat. "But sir, I don't deserve this. I'm not a hero. I feel like I've failed." The general stepped closer, his presence commanding respect and empathy. "You've carried burdens that many cannot fathom. It's time to understand that true honor lies not in the medal you wear, but in the heart you carry within you. You're not alone in this fight, Victor." Nearby, a group of veterans began to whisper among themselves. One, a burly man with a weathered face, nodded in agreement. "He's right. We've all felt that way. The hardest battles are often the ones we fight in silence." A woman in the crowd, a mother of a soldier lost in action, stepped forward, wiping tears from her cheeks. "Your struggle is a testament to your courage, Victor. You're here, standing tall, and that's something we all admire." The crowd began to shift, the energy pooling around Victor like warmth on a cold day. Faces that once displayed skepticism transformed into expressions of understanding and solidarity. Children, who had been standing at the front, now looked up with wide eyes, their innocence juxtaposed against the heavy history of the moment. "Do you think," one little girl whispered to her brother, "that he's really a hero?" Her brother, a few years older, shrugged but smiled reassuringly. "Heroes are just people who keep going, even when it's hard. I think he is." Victor felt the swell of emotions rise within him, a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. He glanced at the general, who nodded with encouragement, and in that brief moment, Victor felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. The general lifted his own medal and continued, "This," he gestured to the shiny emblem hanging from his chest, "is just a piece of metal, but what it represents is far greater. It stands for resilience, sacrifice, and the brotherhood that binds us together, no matter how far apart we may feel." The crowd murmured in agreement, and Victor could see nods of encouragement ripple through the audience. It was as if the general had cast a magic spell. He had transformed a moment of humiliation into a rallying cry for healing. "Victor," the general added, "I want you to take this courage and share it. Speak out. Let others know that it's okay to struggle. We are all part of this journey together." Victor, his heart racing, stepped forward, his voice trembling yet determined. I will," I want to share my story. I want others to know they are not alone." In that instant, the crowd erupted into applause, a sound that filled the air with warmth and acceptance. It was a release of pent-up emotions, a communal acknowledgement of shared struggles and victories. As the claps echoed, the camera zoomed in on Victor's face, capturing the raw emotion that flickered across his features. Tears brimmed in his eyes, but this time they were not just tears of sadness. They were tears of hope, connection, and purpose. In the back of the crowd, a young soldier, still in uniform, watched with admiration. "You see that?" he whispered to his friend. "That's what it means to be a soldier. It's not just about the battles, it's about the people we fight for and the ones we uplift." Meanwhile, social media buzzed, capturing the moment in real time. Clips of the general's words began to spread like wildfire, resonating with people far and wide. Hashtags like "Shock Your Veteran Courage" and "Shock General Kindness" began trending within minutes, igniting conversations about mental health and the importance of community support for veterans. "Make sure to share this moment," someone in the crowd urged, pulling out their phone. "Let everyone see what true valor looks like." Victor couldn't help but smile through his tears, feeling the weight of the world lift as support poured in from every direction. It was no longer just about a medal. It was about a movement that brought together veterans and civilians alike, united in understanding and empathy. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the army base, Victor realized that the real victory was not in the medal he had dropped, but in the connections he had forged that day. If this story is touching your heart, make sure to comment from where you are hearing this amazing story. In that moment, surrounded by newfound friends and allies, Victor knew he had found his voice and purpose. The journey ahead would still be challenging, but now he had the strength of a community behind him, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As the applause faded and Victor stood at the center of the stage, a sudden hush enveloped the crowd. The atmosphere, once filled with warmth and camaraderie, shifted, tension threading through the air. It was then that a figure stepped forward from the back of the audience. A middle-aged woman, her hair pulled back tightly, her uniform crisp and authoritative. She was a high-ranking officer, her presence commanding instant respect, but also a hint of apprehension. "Excuse me, General," she said, her voice firm yet laced with urgency. "May I have a word?" The general turned, surprise flickering across his features. "Of course, Commander Thompson. What's on your mind?" The crowd watched, curiosity piqued. The general's earlier words hung heavy in the air, a promise of unity and healing. But now, an unspoken tension loomed as Commander Thompson's expression shifted from concern to something more resolute. "Victor, if I may," she said, stepping closer to him, "I need to address something important. While I admire your bravery in sharing your story, I must reveal a truth that may change how you view this moment." Victor's heart raced, uncertainty flooding his mind. "What truth?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Commander Thompson took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the crowd before settling on Victor. "There's been a misunderstanding about your medal. It was awarded under circumstances that some might call controversial. The decision was made during a chaotic time in combat, and it wasn't solely based on the valor of your actions. There were other factors at play." Confusion rippled through the audience. Victor felt the color drain from his face. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice trembling. "The medal represents a moment in history, but it also carries the weight of political decisions. Some believe it should have gone to those who made greater sacrifices." Commander Thompson paused, gauging Victor's reaction. "I'm not here to diminish your service. You fought bravely, but you're not the only one who deserves recognition. Many soldiers went above and beyond, and it's vital that you understand this." The crowd murmured, the atmosphere thickening with unease. Victor's heart sank as he grappled with her words. Had he been living a lie? Had he taken something that didn't belong to him? "Victor," the general interjected gently, sensing the turmoil, "you must know that your experience, your journey, is valid. This medal, no matter how it was awarded, symbolizes the battles you fought, inside and out. It's not just the medal, it's what you've endured and how you've chosen to share that burden. But Commander Thompson pressed on, her voice unwavering. We must challenge our assumptions, even when it's uncomfortable. It's crucial to acknowledge that many veterans are still waiting for their stories to be told, for their sacrifices to be recognized. This isn't just about one person's honor, it's about the collective. Victor's shoulders slumped as he processed her words. The crowd, once a sea of supportive faces, now felt like a jury, each person weighing his worth. He had fought so hard to accept his own struggle, and now he felt as if he were being stripped of his identity. I didn't ask for this, he stammered, his voice cracking under the pressure. I just wanted to share my story. I wanted to help others who feel lost like I do. Commander Thompson stepped closer, her expression softening. And you still can. But the truth is, it's important to recognize how interconnected our experiences are. You're not alone in this. There are countless veterans who feel the same way as you. For a moment, silence enveloped the gathering. Victor's heart raced as he looked at the general, who nodded encouragingly, urging him to find the strength within. The crowd awaited his response, anticipation hanging thick in the air. Maybe I can use this, Victor said slowly, gathering his thoughts. I can tell my story, and in doing so, I can also shed light on the stories of those who fought alongside me. I'm just one voice among many. As those words resonated through the air, a ripple of realization washed over the crowd. They understood that the power of storytelling was not just about one individual's journey. It was a collective experience that needed to be shared and honored. The general smiled, pride illuminating his features. Exactly, Victor. It's about building bridges, fostering connections, and ensuring that no one feels isolated in their struggle. With renewed determination, Victor lifted his chin. I'll speak for those who can't. I'll share the struggles of my brothers and sisters in arms, those who fought valiantly yet remain unseen. We all deserve to be heard. A wave of applause erupted, but this time it was different. It was not just a response to Victor's courage, it was an acknowledgement of the shared journey they all embarked upon, a light breaking through the shadows that had long clouded his heart. The crowd's support, the general's encouragement, and even Commander Thompson's challenging words had ignited a fire within him. In that moment, Victor realized that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but he wouldn't face them alone. Together, they would forge a path toward healing, understanding, and unity. The moment went viral, capturing hearts and minds around the world, igniting conversations about the importance of acknowledging all veterans' experiences, regardless of circumstance. Social media exploded with stories of resilience and support, uniting communities and inspiring others to share their truths. With a renewed sense of purpose, Victor stepped forward, ready to embrace his role as a storyteller, a beacon of hope for those still battling their inner demons. The crowd had transformed from a sea of strangers into a family, and together, they would ensure that no story remained untold. As the applause subsided, Victor stood at the center of the stage, his heart racing. The crowd was still buzzing from Commander Thompson's revelation, the air thick with uncertainty. But within that tension lay an opportunity to reshape the narrative not just for himself, but for countless others who felt unseen. Thank you, Commander Thompson, he said, his voice steadying. I appreciate your honesty. It's hard to hear, but I understand that my journey is just one among many. I'll use my voice to honor those who fought alongside me, those who deserve recognition just as much, if not more. The crowd erupted into cheers once again, a wave of solidarity washing over him. It was a reminder that while the burden of his past weighed heavily on his shoulders, he didn't have to carry it alone. He turned to the general, whose eyes gleamed with pride, and then to Commander Thompson, who offered a small nod of approval. Let's share our stories, Victor continued, his voice rising with resolve. Let's create a platform where every veteran can be heard, where their sacrifices are honored. Together, we can foster understanding and compassion for those still struggling. A woman in the audience stood up, tears streaming down her face. My son was deployed last year, and he came back changed. He feels lost, just like you said. Thank you for speaking up, Victor. It gives me hope. The crowd responded with a chorus of, "We're with you, and tell us how we can help." Victor felt a rush of emotion. This was more than a ceremony. It had become a movement. The air crackled with the energy of change, and he realized that the moment had transcended his personal struggle. It was now about a collective healing. As social media buzzed with the unfolding story, hashtags like Change, shared stories, and veteran voices began trending. People from all corners of the world began to share their experiences, creating a tapestry of resilience that connected veterans, families, and civilians alike. "If this story is touching your heart," Victor said, his voice breaking slightly with emotion, "make sure to subscribe for more incredible stories like this one. Together, we can build a community where everyone's voice matters." The general stepped forward again, placing a hand on Victor's shoulder. "You've sparked something here, Victor. This is just the beginning. We need to establish support networks, workshops, and platforms where veterans can come together to share their truths. Your courage is a catalyst for change." Victor nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle upon him. "I'll do whatever it takes," he declared, his heart swelling with purpose. "I want to help others find their voice. No one should feel alone in their struggles." Days turned into weeks, and the ripple effect of that day continued to grow. Victor, now an advocate for veterans' mental health, organized community gatherings that allowed veterans to share their stories openly. Each meeting became a safe haven, a sanctuary where they could connect, heal, and support one another. The General and Commander Thompson became his allies, joining forces to create initiatives that provided resources, counseling, and workshops focused on mental health awareness. Victor stood at the forefront of this change, humbled yet empowered. He learned the true meaning of heroism wasn't just in wearing a medal. It was about lifting others up, amplifying their voices, and ensuring that no one felt invisible. One evening, at a gathering of veterans, Victor looked around the room filled with familiar faces, faces that had once worn expressions of despair, but now radiated hope and connection. He felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over him. "Thank you all for being here," he said, his voice steady as he addressed the crowd. "Each of your stories matters, and together we're creating a legacy of strength and support. We are not just veterans, we are a family." And in that moment, Victor realized that their struggle had transformed into something beautiful, a tapestry woven with threads of shared pain, resilience, and hope. The crowd erupted into applause. But this time, it was not just for him, it was for every individual who had found the courage to share their truth. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the gathering, Victor felt a deep sense of peace. He had discovered the power of community, the strength that comes from vulnerability, and the importance of standing together. And while the journey ahead would still have its challenges, they would face them united, forging a path toward healing and understanding. In the end, it wasn't just about a medal. It was about the lives touched, the stories shared, and the bonds formed in the face of adversity. Victor knew that he had finally found his place, and it was exactly where he was meant to be, surrounded by those who understood and uplifted one another. And as the echoes of their laughter filled the evening air, Victor's heart swelled with hope, knowing that together they would continue to make a difference, one story at a time.